All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheel Podcast. Andrew Hazlett alongside Ethan Ignatowski as usual. As always, I guess.
As always, really. Well, no, I'm not always alongside you. Sometimes I'm on a computer screen.
In that case, we're technically alongside each other.
Are we, though?
There's the two screens. I'm on one, you're on the other. So we're kind of alongside each other.
In a way.
Yeah. That was certainly an intro. Let's get into the actual racing here. Into the reviews.
And now for last week's race reviews.
Episode number 34, by the way.
Yeah.
Say that. Daytona and Milwaukee for the trucks. Milwaukee. I'm going to talk about what happened last first because it's a lower series. Lane Riggs, he got his first career win in the truck race. Second generation racer. Father was Scott Riggs, raced in the Cup Series. And while celebrating, he popped his shoulder.
Ouch.
Place. He says he's done that. It happens to him on multiple times. But yeah, he popped his shoulder. And then his crew popped it back in. Xfinity, Ryan Truex won the Xfinity race at Daytona, which as he is a second generation racer with Martin Truex Sr. being a longtime racer as well. And then I'm going to spoil Daytona here. Harrison Burton won. He's a second generation racer. His father, Jeff Burton, a solid Cup driver who never won a championship, but over 20 wins in his career. Can't complain about that.
No, you can't.
So anyway, let's get into the actual racing here. Stage 1 takes us to lap 35. Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland, not David Gilliland. David is his father, who's long retired. Thinking of second generation racers.
That's just what's on the mind.
Yeah. For Front Row Motorsports in the history, it was a Front Row Motorsports 1-2. So the prophecy came true. Fun. Yeah, they led lanes for the start of the race. Logano, he eventually was able to get in front of Gilliland in his lane, alongside McDowell. Berry replaced Logano, still alongside McDowell. Keselowski replaced McDowell and got ahead of him. So a lot of lead changes early. And then Keselowski on lap 10 got himself to the lead. Lap 12, Logano to the lead. Lap 12, Berry to the lead. Then Byron pulled alongside Berry. Berry re-emerged by lap 14. Logano to lead lap 15. Berry pulled alongside Logano on lap 17. Logano re-emerged in the lead lap 18. Todd Gilliland to the lead lap 20. Joey Logano to the lead lap 22. Todd Gilliland to the lead lap 24. Lap 27, it was Cindric and Berry leading the lanes. Lap 28, Berry emerged as the leader. Lap 30 was Logano and Keselowski leading lanes. Lap 34, Logano emerged as the leader. And then lap 35, Berry wins stage 1. Exciting racing, intense racing, as you could see, a bunch of lead changes here.
Yeah.
That's what Daytona's all about. Stage 1 was a 10 out of 10. I loved it. Your stage results were Berry, Logano, Busher, who's one of those points drivers that are looking to get into the playoffs, Cindric, Blaney, Gilliland, Keselowski, McDowell, Byron, and Larson. Stage 2 takes us up 95. Your top 5 coming out of the pits were Logano, Busher, Cindric, Berry, and Larson. On the pit stops, Daniel Suarez got caught on fire from Denny Hamlin's fuel leaking and got onto his car, which then got caught on fire. He had to retire, so that was kind of a strange retirement. Logano, he led on lap 42 restart, and then lap 43, Busher pulled even with Logano. Logano retook the lead. Lap 43, Wallace pulled even with Logano on lap 46. Wallace emerged with the lead. Buescher pulled even with Wallace. Wallace re-emerged with the lead at lap 49. Lap 50, Briscoe pulled even with Wallace. Wallace re-emerged to lead lap 52. Lap 60, big crash. Gragson, Bowman, LaJoie, Chastain, Truex, Hamlin, Nemechek, Jones, Larson, Gibbs, Hemrick, Byron, Elliott, Preece, Austin Dillon, Blaney, Hill, and Tyler Reddick were all involved. Only guys that retired were Hamlin, Elliott, Gragson, and Preece. What happened to start the wreck? Corey LaJoie had his Corey LaJoie moment of the week and spun Noah Gragson into the outside wall. Lap 67, on that restart, Buescher to the lead. Lap 73, Wallace to the lead. Lap 75, Buescher to the lead. Lap 76, Logano to the lead. Lap 78, Larson to the lead. Lap 81, Logano re-emerged with Larson. And then there was a crash. A strange crash. Well, it really wasn't a crash. It was caution came out for two incidents. Eric Jones having a tire go and SVG's engine blowing up. I go back to Michigan last week where we had three guys' tires go down at the same time. So it's kind of weird that multiple cars having incidents when the caution comes out. Kind of weird, kind of strange. Interesting there. Few pit on the caution. Lap 89 restart. Larson went to the lead. Lap 91, Keselowski pulled even with Larson. Lap 95, Logano passed them both to the lead. Logano wound up winning stage 2. Stage 3, that takes to to lap 200. So some drivers take 4, some drivers take 2. Really wasn't important in the long run. McDowell leads on the restart. Lap 119 in the Beefaroo Mobile. Haley to the lead. Lap 139, Nemechek. He pulled up alongside Haley, and then the next lap he spun while blocking 51, which caused Kyle Busch to go lead. Pit stops, and then you had Cindric, Keselowski, Larson, McDowell, Busch. Lap 184 restart. Cindric leads. Leads. There's some crash I missed in here. There's something in my notes I missed. But Keselowski had a restart violation, and he was leading. He was leading. He was second on the restart violation. What happened was, the leader's supposed to go first in the restart zone, and Keselowski went first. He was second. Can't do that. Drive-through penalty for him. McDowell and Cindric even on the restart. Larson joined him on the next lap 189. McDowell to lead lap 190. Lap 199, big crash after Cindric spins McDowell. McDowell almost flipped. He had a lot of cars involved. Larson, McDowell, Logano, Bubba Wallace, Haley, Reddick, Blaney, Byron, Bell, Stenhouse, Buescher, Hill. DNFs, there was only 3, Logano, McDowell, Haley. Few pit, lap 197, Cindric to the lead. Crash on lap 199 with 2 laps to go. It was Kyle Busch hitting Austin Cindric on an offset bump draft that spun Cindric into Josh Berry, who flipped upside down and was spinning, hit the inside wall, and continued spinning. A very violent crash, which Josh Berry, after they flipped the car back upside right, was able to get out, walk, and continue on his day. Talked to the reporters soon after, had no injury. But the cars involved in the crash were Berry, Byron, Logano, Jones, Gilliland, Austin Dillon, Byron, Zane Smith, Hill, and Cody Ware. That led to overtime. Kyle Busch, he was leading. Outside was Harrison Burton. Kyle Busch had the lead over Harrison Burton, but on the final lap, Burton had a push from Parker Retzlaff, who's in his second career start. Burton, he took that push and held the lead, and won the race. So, yeah, 9 out of 10 race. Harrison Burton last in points even after this race. And he was going in of the full-time guys. He had a 0.88% chance to make the playoffs. Now in the playoffs. So huge win for him. But probably be bounced in the round of 16. Interesting note, Harrison Burton won in his 98th career start. You know who else won in their first race on their 98th career start?
Tell me.
William Byron, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson. Just interesting statistic. Doesn't really mean anything.
It actually means that Harrison Burton is a future NASCAR Cup Series champion.
I don't know, Jim.
I don't know, Jim. I think I know, though.
I don't know about that. Anyway, IndyCar went to Portland. Not one of my favorite racetracks, but it's a track in the Northwest. Gotta take advantage of that market. 110 lap race. Santino Ferrucci put it on pole. I don't know
Shocker.
how in the AJ Foyt car, but he did. But
He didn't hold on to it for long.
lap 1, turn 1, Will Power's like, I'll take the lead.
Thank you very much.
But meanwhile, in the back, Kyle Kirkwood hit Scott Dixon off, and Fittipaldi had nowhere to go. He hit Dixon, which caused Dixon to retire. Race control gave Fittipaldi the drive-through penalty. Dixon said it should have been Kirkwood. So it's kind of interesting difference of opinion of those two. And the booth had a difference of opinion with Bell saying Fittipaldi, and then Hinchcliffe saying it should be Kirkwood. Power leads on restart. We had a green flag cycle. Lap 23, Fittipaldi spins daily. He had 2 drive-throughs from that, so that was interesting. The top 5 after pit stops were Power, Palou, Kirkwood, Newgarden, Grosjean. Grosjean forces Herta off. No, just a racing incident there. Cars pit again, another green flag cycle. 56 Christian Rasmussen in his final race of the year. He went off. And then the 27 car. He had to let 2 cars go for blocking, so that took him out of the top 5. And so the top 5 looked like this. Power, Palou, Newgarden, Herta, and Santino Ferrucci. Nolan Siegel went off. And then Romain Grosjean, running 6, he spun, which is Grosjean, that's about 7-9 spots higher than he normally runs.
I mean, he was running amazingly for first half of the race, maybe.
Yeah. And then he spun, and when he rejoined right in front of Christian Rasmussen, who spun him. Rasmussen had nowhere to go. It's not his fault there. And then Romain Grosjean goes off the next corner, and Romain Grosjean gets the drive-through.
Yeah.
And
the chicken award.
Gets the chicken award for his not good driving.
Because he was being chicken-brained.
Chicken-brained.
Being chicken-brained gives you the chicken award.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, does it not make sense?
Yeah. And David Lucas had to let 4 cars by for a penalty he had. Cars pit. I heard Colton Herta, he stalled in pit road, and then he refired it by using the hybrid system, which you're not allowed to do.
But not allowed, yeah.
Yeah. The top 5 looked pretty much the same as last time. Power, Palou, Newgarden, Herta, and now Marcus Armstrong in the top 5. Herta had to let a car go by. It wound up being a lap car, so he didn't lose a spot. And that was the podium, as I mentioned. Power, Palou, Newgarden. 4 out of 10 race. No, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Moving over to sports car racing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Go do sports cars first.
Virginia, I did watch this race for once. I'm trying to do math. 2 hour, 40-minute race. 2 hour, so yeah, I don't know how many 12 minutes that is. But hour 1, GTD Pro and GTD were the only cars at the race. GTD Pro, you had the pole sitter of the one car they passed it off to the 23 on pit stops because the 23 did something different. In GTD, it was the 55 got passed by the 32 first lap. The 77 had a low tire pressure penalty, so they pit. The 9 had a door issue. 77 spun the 14 car, and the 77 had a drive-through. Then we had a pit stops. 65, they had a drive-through for not enough fuel, the 3 stalls. Going into hour 2, on the next round of pit stops, the 1 retook the lead from the 23. 32 still had the lead in GTD. 3 stalls again, and then they went to the garage. They had mechanical issues all day long. Pit stops again. 23 drive-through for not enough fuel, and 66 drive-through working on the car while fueling. That you can't do that. Hour 3, the 70 engine, let's go, full course yellow. Like, okay, thought we might have some passing. The only thing that happened after was the 12 went off. The 1 Paul Miller team won GTD Pro, and then the 32 Korthoff Preston team won GTD 2 out of 10 race. IMSA will have 2 races left, 2 endurance races, 1 at Indianapolis and 1 at Petit Le Mans Road at Atlanta to round out the season. Ethan, you want to talk about the Netherlands?
Let's do it. So, apologies for not inserting my opinion as much as I usually do during the other previews. I'm working on something that will hopefully be pretty cool for us soon. But yeah, the Netherlands did happen. Wasn't the most exciting race ever. Lando Norris, he started on pole after an amazing qualifying lap to end Q3. And just behind him, the home country, whatever you want to call it, favorite, Max Verstappen, he was starting second. Lando, he had a horrific start from first place. Verstappen easily got past him to take first before they even got to turn 1, which at Zandvoort is kind of crazy just because of the distance between the start-finish line and the first corner of the track. It was another horrible start for Lando. It is really becoming a just bad habit. It's not even, I don't know what to call it even. It's becoming an issue, really, is what you should call it. Anyway, though, the next lap, Lewis Hamilton, he passed Yuki Tsunoda to start making his way up the field, and a few laps later, Carlos Sainz passed Fernando Alonso to start making his way up the field as well. Those 2 guys would provide some entertainment during the race as they fought their way up the field after both qualifying outside of the top 10. On lap 18, Lando, he was able to recover, and he passed Max Verstappen on the straight right before turn 1. That McLaren is super quick on the straights, so it was a rather easy move to make, and he kind of just rode off into the distance. Forget about it. He was gone. He ended up winning the race by a million seconds, it seemed like. But there was some other things worth mentioning, like on lap 25, Leclerc, he came into the pits, and then the next lap, Russell pitted and came out behind Leclerc, so the undercut worked. Leclerc was in 4th place, and then when Oscar Piastri pitted a number of laps later, I believe like 8 or 9 laps later, as he was going on a longer strategy, he moved up to 3rd place. Piastri, he was the big loser, coming out in 5th behind Russell even. On lap 40, though, so about 15 laps later, 20 laps later, I can't do math, 15 laps later, yeah, he made a move on George Russell for 4th place, and then NASCAR on the same lap, Formula 1 on the same lap, did its best NASCAR impression as 3 guys came to pass Kevin Magnussen before taking a banked corner. So that was kind of fun. Leclerc, he was during this time just defending amazingly against Oscar Piastri. Piastri was on his bumper for the last third of the race maybe, or at least from lap 40 onwards really, and he was just able to hold off Oscar. He I don't know how he did it, but he did. So it could have been a double podium for McLaren. Instead, Leclerc gets that final spot, Verstappen second, and like I said, Lando Norris won by about a million seconds. it was not one of those super exciting Formula One races that we've seen the past few race weekends before this one. It was just a average to boring race. I'm being a little nice and giving it a 5 out of 10. It was just a dominant victory with not really too much in between to help it stand out.
And now for the news.
For the news, though, we have some pretty interesting stuff here. Jack Doohan will be racing for Alpine in 2025. He came up through the ranks as a developmental driver or as a junior driver. Now he is the developmental driver, test driver, reserve driver, all those things for Alpine. And now that Esteban Ocon will be racing for Haas next year, they had that open seat, and it's Jack Doohan. And here's the thing with Jack Doohan. In his junior career, it's taken him about a year to adjust to a junior category before having his big performance. But he's young. He's only 21 years old. He knows Alpine. He is embedded in that family. I believe he was the right pick. There's guys like Teo Porcher out there who I would have loved to see in that spot, but it seems like he's just not even really in the Formula One zeitgeist. Is that the word? Anymore?
I would say realm.
The realm of Formula One, not really there anymore, which is quite unfortunate because he's a guy who definitely deserved a seat. Andrew, I know that you think that it should have been Mr. Felipe Drugovich.
Well, I think it should have been Teo Porcher.
Well, me too.
I would have said Felipe Drugovich over Mr. Jack Doohan, and the fact that Felipe Drugovich, this is how his Formula 3 on, this is what he did. Had a mid-year at best in Formula 3, gets promoted to Formula 2. He didn't have time to adjust everything in Formula 3.
It was a worse than mid-year in Formula 3, if we're being honest. Yeah. It was a pretty bad year. I'm surprised he got promoted.
Yeah. He probably should have another year. So he was going to struggle for a bit. That was expected of him. Which he ran top 10 of... He finished top 10 in his first 2 years. Third year...
8th and 6th, respectively, I believe.
He goes out and wins the championship. Not just by a little bit, by a lot. He dominated.
He did dominate.
He waxed. He grabbed the field and gave the field a wedgie. That's how much he won. It was a huge win.
9th and 8th, respectively, not 8th and 6th. But, yeah.
Jack Doohan, he had a little worse his first year of Formula 2. Or Formula 3, rather. My bad. He had a worse than Drugovich year, and then stayed in F3, adjusted well.
He finished second.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a. I believe he finished second. It was an amazing year. He didn't win the championship, but it was a very good year.
Yeah, he had a very good year. I know it was top 10, top 5 for sure. And then he goes to Formula 2, has a good year.
It was second in his second Formula 3 year.
Yeah. And then he finishes 6th, and then he finishes 3rd.
Yeah.
Which, that's okay. It isn't...
I think you're just crediting him. I think that's more than okay.
It's good. It's not...
It's very good.
It's not okay. This is great prospect or anything, but I look at those two, and in those 4 years that I see, I like Aston Martin Felipe Drugovich's career better. And it's not even close for me.
For me,
just the weight of the championship.
I disagree.
And the fact of the build to the championship, because he took strides in every year. That's something I saw, and that's something I like.
I disagree, because here's the thing. Maybe it shouldn't matter so much, but the fact of the matter is it does matter when you win your championship, how long it takes you to win your championship, how long it takes you to even come close to winning a championship. Felipe Drugovich, he struggled mightily his first year in F3. And yes, he was promoted to F2 and had a fairly good year. I mean, he finished 9th. But then the next year, he didn't really improve. He only improved to 8th. It was only in his 3rd year when he made that big jump, which does matter. Like, it took him 3 years to do something, and when he did something great. But it was also a rather weak grid that year. His only real competition, I mean, he had Teo Porcher, Liam Lawson. Those two, they should have given him a better fight, to be fair. But Dragovich, he had the most experience out of those guys, which kind of tips the scales the other way. So he was the most experienced driver out of the championship contenders. He was able to make it not really close, and it was also because he had amazing reliability. He only retired 2 times. A guy like Teo Porcher, he retired 4 times. Guy like Liam Lawson, he retired 4 times. Guy like Logan Sargent, he retired like 6 times. So it does matter, those retirements. It does matter that he had more experience. It also matters that he's older. He's 24 compared to Jack Doohan's 21. Jack Doohan, yes, he struggled his first year in F3, but he showed that he could adjust. Then he came over to F2. He had a pretty good rookie year in F2, finishing 6th, and then he made another big jump in his second year of F2 to finish 3rd. Now, unfortunately, we'll never know what would have happened if Dragovich stayed another year in F3, but Doohan has proven the ability to take a step forward after his first year. And now, I'm not saying that Jack Doohan is going to become some amazing driver, greatest driver of all time or anything. I think he's a pretty standard to maybe a little bit below average driver on the F1 grid. But I think between the two, between the options available, there isn't really some huge difference between them. If anything, I do rate Doohan a little bit higher than Dragovich for the reasons that I said. Age, ability to adapt. If you look a little bit more into their results than just, oh, this is the position they finished. I think it's pretty close. Like I said, slight advantage to Doohan. Since Doohan is familiar with Alpine, I don't think it really makes sense. Even if Dragovich is a little better, it doesn't really make sense to go out and have to create a whole new relationship with Felipe Dragovich when you already have a multiple years long relationship with Jack Doohan. He understands that team. I mean, that guy has been there through by now multiple team principals. Yeah. He is kind of a staple of that team in the background, and he deserves the ability to now be in the foreground as one of the 2 drivers.
Point number 1 for me is that you make your own reliability.
That's just not true in Formula 2.
Whoa. A lot of these guys, they're crashing out. That's making your own reliability. If you can keep the car on the racetrack, I'm not going to look at Porsche's 4. I'm not going to look at Lawson's 4. I'm not going to. I would assume
that most of those are the Mechachrome engine deciding to die for those guys.
I would assume it's most of them just being young and inexperienced and having driver issues. I don't know. I'm not going to look into that.
But now Doohan is just as experienced as Dragovich and younger. It's just like a prospect in any other sport. Age does matter.
Yes, that is true, but Felipe Dragovich, in his championship year, he was the only championship contender, if we're being honest.
Because the other guys got so many DNFs.
Well, you take those 2 extra DNFs for Porsche. Let's convert those 2 into feature race wins. Willie, that's 50 points. You give those 50 points to Porsche, he doesn't even come close still. Dragovich is winning by 50 points.
He had a very, very good year.
That's waxing the floor. The kid did everything you can ask of him, and you're still wanting more. And if you look, if you give Jack Doohan the same timeline,
that was his 3rd year.
Hold on.
I'm holding on.
Yeah. If you give Jack Doohan after his worst year than Dragovich in F3, you promote him to F2, I don't know if he's going to do the same thing that Dragovich does and going 9th, 8th, 1st in that fashion. I think that's actually, I'd give his junior career an A. I'm between an A and an A minus. Jack Doohan, I'd give him a B. That's at the end of the day.
That's kind of crazy to me.
Just I see the you look from the F3 to F2 improvement. That's massive. I think that's better than Felipe's F3 to first year in F2. That's better than his second year to third year in F2. That's what stands out to me. That's great improvement. That is not being talked
And Duan's improvement isn't great?
Well, it's very, very good, but moving up the ladder and improving by 10 positions on the grid, nearly 10 positions on the grid. That's incredible. That's saying something. That's amazing. That's
I think I think you think very highly of Felipe Drugovich when, he's a good driver, nothing too crazy. We both made our arguments. There's no point saying the same exact thing 500 times. Let us know who you agree with in the comments. Moving on, though, Williams, they also made a big move. They dropped Logan Sargent, which, after that crash in Zandvoort, the writing was on the wall. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was one too many incidents. Mm-hmm. But I think we both agree here, replacing with Franco Colapinto doesn't make any sense because you're taking Logan Sargent out of the car. Fine. But why are you taking Logan Sargent out of the car? It's because you don't like his pace and you don't like that he is prone to making mistakes. What type of driver is the most prone to making mistakes and the most prone to having a learning curve when it comes to being fast in a Formula One car? That would be a rookie.
A young developing driver. Franco Colapinto, I don't know if you realize, Ethan, he's a rookie in F2.
Yeah, he's
in F2.
He's a very good driver, but he's just so unexperienced.
Bro,
he's going to have a huge learning curve, and you're getting rid of Logan Sargent because you don't like two things about him. Two major things. Very well, get rid of Logan Sargent. But then you're going and dipping into a talent pool where you are more likely than not going to be taking a driver who is also going to have those two big issues. A guy like Liam Lawson, he was right there. Red Bull was willing to loan him to Williams as long as they could have a clause in the contract that they could call him back at any time that was needed, which probably wouldn't have even been utilized. But even if it was, then if you're Williams, you take Liam Lawson, and then if he gets called back, then you go get Franco Colapinto. Why would you risk it by taking Franco Colapinto from Formula 2? I like Franco Colapinto. I think he's a good driver, but he's not ready for this. He's just not. It's as simple as that. Logan Sargent, he was slow and he crashed a lot. It's unfortunate, but then you replace him with a driver who is likely to be slow and crash because he is an extremely young driver in Formula 2. Yeah.
Thinking about this, I should have given Williams the chicken award.
2 chicken awards?
No, I'll just give it a specialty squeak.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. We squeak it more here. CJ, the studio audience.
Yeah.
Shout out. But yeah.
The last bit of Formula 1 news.
Before we go on, I would
Go
have liked to seen Mick Schumacher in that seat over Franco Colapinto. I would have liked to seen whoever, like any IndyCar driver. If you could have waited 2 races, they could have grabbed an IndyCar driver. Coffson, Alex Palou. There's other IndyCar drivers. You can go for, I don't know how the schedule is, Formula E drivers, WEC drivers. I know they do have some races, but you can be able to mix and match those to get to something that's good enough. Fine. You have guys like Teo Pourchaire, Felipe Drugovich. Those guys aren't doing anything. You could have maybe tried to get one of those guys to too. I don't know why, but here's something interesting that I'm kind of interested on, is that Williams called up Franco Colapinto because they knew they were going. I'm going to go on a theory here. I don't know if I believe this. Williams called up Franco Colapinto because they knew they were going to lose one of their drivers that they signed for next season. Which one could it be? It wouldn't be Sainz. It could be Alex Albon. You'd say, Andrew, where's Alex Albon going? He could be going back to Red Bull in some form, in the Red Bull or the RB, because maybe at the end of the day, they're the head honchos over there saying, we don't like Sergio Perez, we don't like Daniel Ricciardo, let's get him out of there. Well, we want to get rid of both of those guys. We say, Hadjar, he isn't ready, so we need someone who's good to put in one of those seats. Alex Albon is a perfect guy for that, along with Liam Lawson is the other one. That would be long expected. So that could be a possibility. Red Bull could pay off Williams and say, okay, we're buying Albon out of his contract to put him in either the RB or the Red Bull car. That's an interesting theory. I don't know if this could be what's happening, but it's just a theory.
I would say with almost all my certainty that is not what's happening. I like where your head's at, though, but I don't think so.
So you think Williams is just stupid?
I think they're making a dumb decision, yes. Mick Schumacher and all that, I disagree with all that. It was pretty simple for me. You get Liam Lawson from Red Bull on loan, which they were willing to do.
Lawson would have been the better
yeah. Because Mick Schumacher, he's the same driver as Logan Sargent. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. I believe Colapinto is part of the Williams Young Driver Academy. So they are just kind of promoting from within, which is where they're at. And then Colapinto next year, after, he's going to finish off the Formula One season for Williams. And yes, he is part of the Young Driver Academy for Williams. He's going to go back to Formula 2 next year, I would assume, because he doesn't have a spot in Formula 1. So he's going to go back to Formula 2 next year. He's going to be the favorite to win the championship because he already raced in Formula 1. He's probably going to finish like third or something. And then, we'll see where his F1 career goes from there. But I don't think that this is the type of thing where Williams is promoting him because they know he's going to be in the car next year. I think this is a thing where they're going to promote him to see if they believe in him in a year or two. Or 2 or 3 years, I should say.
Our studio audience is leading by CJ.
I'm not convinced that at all that your theory could be true. But it's an interesting
That's
theory.
an interesting thought at the worst.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree there. But yeah, for Logan Sargent, it was really a tale of what if, because what if he had another season in Formula 2? What if he was able to get a little bit more experience underneath him? I mean, he finished 4th in his first Formula 2 season. He brought a 2021 Charouz F3 car to victory lane, on the podium 4 times. That's not something you do if you're not a very talented race car driver.
We're going to talk about another former Formula 3 Charouz driver later in the show.
So, Logan, it didn't ever work out for him in Formula 1, but he does have a future in racing. I know he was really bad in Formula 1, but a lot of the times, even the bad Formula 1 drivers are still good racing drivers. I strongly believe that Logan Sargent will go on to have a respectable career in wherever he goes next. I really, really do. Next up, a little bit of a palate cleanser, ha-ha funny story. Haas had to stay an extra day in the Netherlands because of their former sponsor, Uralkali. Do you remember Uralkali, Andrew? Uralkali?
I wish to forget them. Trying to erase them from my memory because of the certain driver that they brought on who shall not be named.
Uralkali is essentially the company of the Russian oligarch who is the father to the driver who will not be named. And normally, sponsors pay teams, but Haas was in debt $9 million to Uralkali, and basically they were not allowed to leave the Netherlands due to a Swiss tribunal ordering that until they paid the money to Uralkali, and that left them arriving to Monza a day later, as they had to wait a whole day for the payment to be processed and all that sort of fun stuff.
Well, the reason why they had to pay the sponsor that money because when the Russians decided to invade Ukraine, Haas kind of had a dropping of the sponsor. Haas thought, oh, we can take your money, but Uralkali said no. They went to court. Court said, Haas, you got to pay the money back, and that was the $9 million, and they hadn't paid it back yet.
Yeah. So that's that though, and next it is on to NASCAR and some international NASCAR news. Andrew.
The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, Formula One fans, you're familiar with that track. That's where Mexico City races. NASCAR Xfinity's been there in the past. They're going to host the first International Cup Series points race event in 67 years. Yes, Kyle Busch will be able to race. He is good with the Mexican government. So if those people that are asking that question, that's your answer. Yeah. It'll be interesting if it's on the road course. I would assume it is. Probably not the oval, but yeah, it is on the road course. I remember now. They're not going to use the turn 4, 5, 6 layout. It'll be an alternate layout where it'll be a hairpin before the S's. So that's something that will be different. But yeah, home race for Daniel Suarez. It will be on a week where F1 and IndyCar are racing. So Sergio Perez stays in his seat. We will not be getting a car where he will get to run. Pato O'Ward will not be racing due to just racing their own series, you know. Yeah. And then another interesting note, this will be replacing on the Richmond dates, which is a good thing. Richmond needs to go down to one track. The only 4 tracks that should really have 2 races are Daytona, Talladega, Martinsville, Bristol, maybe argue Darlington, but that's at the point NASCAR trying to, as they should, try to get away from these 2 race weekend tracks, go to other places, and that's what I like to see. And I like to see that they're going internationally too. I think it's going to be a huge race.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting for the drivers, for the sport, for everyone. Really brings more eyes on the sport. Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Shane Van Gisbergen to the 3rd Trackhouse car, number 88. Not a surprise that he's going to Trackhouse. Everyone thought it would be the number 97, but they're going with the 88 instead. An iconic number. SVG, he's had a huge rise in the NASCAR scene over the last 14 months, from him winning at Chicago, the Cup Series race, and now just dominating the Xfinity Series at road courses. So yeah, that's no surprise.
I feel like he's, it's going to take him some time to get real good at them, but, I think he is improving at the ovals as well.
To help improve NASCAR, just to get Van Gisbergen up to speed, 5 races added to his Cup Series schedule. Daytona, which was last week, Darlington, Atlanta, Talladega, Martinsville, 5 ovals, different types of ovals. So yeah, you'll see Shane Van Gisbergen in a lot for the rest of the year. I don't know if that fills up that seat. Actually, there's 3 races left that are TBA. You have we do have Ty Dillon in one of the races left, and Derek Kraus in a race. So we might see Allmendinger, Josh Williams, along with Dillon, Kraus, maybe someone else, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Zane Smith dropped from Trackhouse. Not a surprise because Trackhouse just doesn't have anyone that's going to be going out. I think Suarez is going to stay as long as Pitbull's there. And then Ross Chastain and SVG, you aren't going to be replacing him. But yeah, Zane Smith dropped. So yeah, that's unfortunate. So we'll see where he goes. Maybe he still could potentially be a colleague driver, a Spire driver, possibly, or front row. But Kevin Harvick said Ford doesn't want him because he left to go get a cup ride, which is annoying because you look at what Ford has passed on in the past. Kyle Larson. Look what Kyle Larson is now. Just saying, Ford, be smart. There's no need to block teams from doing anything. But yeah, Zane Smith hasn't had a great rookie season, but he's starting to pick it up. I hope he stays in the Cup Series. He certainly deserves it. Denny Hamlin had a 75-point penalty for an engine issue at Toyota, so it had nothing to do with the Joe Gibbs team. It's Toyota screwing things up on how the engines get resealed, and Toyota reported the penalty to NASCAR. So yeah, this takes Denny Hamlin out for the regular season title fight. So that's huge. And Austin Dillon loses final appeal for the Richmond penalties, so we don't have to hear about that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Colton Herta, he did something pretty smart in the IndyCar race, but also something illegal. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, his pit lane incident that I mentioned earlier, you can't use the hybrids in pit lane to restart your car if you stall it, which is what Colton Herta did. He only had to let one person get by, which was a lap car. So if you think about it, is if you're in that position, why wait 5, 10, 20 seconds to get the actual manual restarter to your car than when you can just take 2 seconds and then only lose a position? I know which one I'd rather take. So that's something that IndyCar needs to look into. And the broadcast, they thought the system for IndyCar is deactivated in pit lane. Like push to pass is deactivated. So that's interesting to look into. There's no penalty so far. We'll see if any of them happen. But IndyCar needs to look into changing things there. McLaren confirms Taylor Bernard alongside Sam Bird for Formula E Season 11. I normally don't talk about Formula E here, but I do like Taylor Bernard. He won Formula 3 in I think it was a Genzer, not a Charus that I mentioned earlier, but still not a great car.
No.
But which I was really high on this guy. I thought he was going to be a Formula 1 star. He's going to go to Formula E. We'll see how he does there. Nico Rosberg protege. I was really high on him. I'm kind of disappointed to see him going to Formula E.
Yeah, but I mean, we make fun of Formula E a lot on the podcast when we do mention them.
Yeah.
But if we're being serious for a moment, they're still one of the top flights of motorsport in the world. It's still a great opportunity for the guy. He'll be able to prove himself. And, if he performs well in Formula E, he can try to move it off elsewhere, and we'll see where his career can go from here. He's, like you said, he has the CV, so we'll see.
Yeah. Isata Francini, the Italian team, they're going to withdraw from WEC, at least for now. They might try to come back next year, but it sounds like it's an uphill battle for them. Privateer entries make good sports car racing, and now we don't have any privateer teams that are not factory. So that's kind of unfortunate. Glickenhaus gone. Van Wall / Bicolis, whatever you want to call them, forced out. Hopefully they can come back. And then Isata possibly gone. So that's unfortunate. But we're going to move into the previews real quick.
And now for next week's race previews.
Darlington. For Cup and Xfinity trucks off this weekend. You have in the Cup Series, you have a couple notable drivers. Kaz Grala back in the 15, SVG in the 16, and Timmy Hill in the 66 will sponsor W. It's something with one of the Paul brothers.
Okay.
My 5 drivers to watch are gonna be Denny Hamlin. I knew because he's always good at Darlington. Eric Jones, he's won twice at Darlington. You might not have known that, but he has. Martin Truex Jr. has won twice at Darlington. So yeah, he's good. He's a good driver. Denny Hamlin, I want to talk about him. He has won 1, 2, 3. Only 3 times at Darlington? I thought it was way more than 4, actually. I see 4. So yeah, 4 times. As my 4th driver alongside Jones, Truex, Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, he's won twice at Darlington. And finally, I will pick, I'm trying to see who's in the sport right now. Him. I'm going to go with the defending winner of this Darlington race, Kyle Larson. So those are your 5 drivers to watch out for at Darlington. Going over to the Xfinity Series real quick, going over the entry list, a lot of Cup drivers entering the field, including in the 15 AM Racing, Joey Logano. This week, you have Chase Elliott in the 17, Hendrick. Logano's in the 15 AM car. In the Joe Gibbs All-Star cars, you have Joe Graff Jr. in the 19, Christopher Bell in the 20. Corey Himes in the 26 this week for Sam Hunt. You have driver TBA for Joey Gase.
My personal favorite.
Yeah, you like TBA?
Always.
Going down further down the list, Carson Kvapil will be in the 88 for Junior Motorsports. Ross Chastain will be in the 2nd DGM car, the number 92. The SS Greenlight cars will be Greg Van Alst and Chad Fincham. Noah Gragson will be in the 30, and Garrett Smithy will be in the 45 for Alpha Prime. Going over to Xfinity, IndyCar. As of now, the only driver change, the 20 will be at Carpenter for both races this week. Only confirmed driver change. The 75 will not be there this week for Yuri Vips. 51 is TBA, likely going to be Catherine Legg to finish the season. It's long rumored. Alongside Jack Harvey in the 18. He'll be there for the rest of the season as well. So yeah, that's the driver changes there. Your drivers to watch out for. Back in last race was 2015 for Milwaukee. And the only 2 drivers that in the field that have won there, Scott Dixon and Will Power. Those are 2 of my 5 drivers to watch. I'm adding the oval specialist, Joseph Newgarden, and I'm going to add the other great oval driver, Scott McLaughlin. And at my 5th driver, I would say this track is probably going to race closer to Gateway than Iowa of the 2 shorter ovals. So who's great at Gateway? David Malukas. So I think he is my 5th driver to watch out for this weekend. Honorable mention will be Pat O'Ward, who's more, both great at the short ovals, but he's more Iowa. Next week, they're going to go to Nashville Super Speedway, which is going to be more like Iowa. Are
we officially on David Malukas' potential first win watch?
Possibly. If Shank brings a car that was as good as it was in Gateway, with 2 chances, I think it's a good possibility to see David Malukas winning in this race. Okay. But I don't possibly. A couple changes in Indy next. You have Taylor Ferns in the 55 Able, and Ricardo Escato in the 75 Juncos Hollinger car. Well, that's the only changes there. Going over to
we got Lone Star Le Mans.
Lone Star Le Mans, which is at COTA for the World Endurance Championship. Why do they call it that? Who knows?
Lone Star State.
Well, Lone Star State, but why do they have to add a Le Mans? Really,
just
random.
Who knows?
The most recent winner was Rebellion Racing. That's just a shout out in 2020. All the homies love Rebellion Racing. So yeah, not many I don't see any driver changes in the top class here. In your, what is this? I don't know. Harry Ticknell is back in the Proton competition in the hypercar. That's what it is. That's the only change there. Ben Keating is in for the Proton 88 as that third driver is now a rotation for some unknown reason. So yeah, that's all you've got there. Formula One racing at Monza. Ethan, go.
Yeah, well, as per usual. Well, actually, not as per usual, because normally I just say, yeah, it's Formula One. We don't have any new drivers this week, and it's the same guys as last week. Well, we already talked about it. Franco Colapinto, he is taking over that second Williams seat for the rest of the season. Kimi Antonelli is going to be driving for Mercedes in FP1. I don't think they've announced if he'll be replacing Hamilton or George. I would assume Hamilton, but they haven't announced anything yet. I don't believe. I might be wrong on that.
And they're probably going to announce that he's replacing Hamilton.
Yeah, I was about to say, keep on the lookout for that announcement, because it is extremely likely. He is now 18 years old, even though the FIA changed the rules so he doesn't actually have to be 18 years old. He's 18 years old now, and it's his home race. Mm-hmm. That contract is probably getting signed, or at least announced. Might already be signed this weekend.
And now for next week's race picks.
But let's hop into the pick points. None of us got a win correct.
First time for that many races.
Yeah. So, Louis Foster, we all got 1 point, so we basically all got no points. Doesn't really do anything there. Alex Pillow, your pick at Portland finished ahead of my pick of Scott Dixon and Pato Award for the guest. My 57 Windward finished ahead of the 96 Turner and the 55 Proton. Max Verstappen finished second, point for all three of us. Lando Norris finished first. We had him finishing second, me and the guest. That's 1 point. And then no points for Lewis Hamilton or George Russell being on the podium. Point for me and the guest for Christian Eckes finishing ahead of Corey Heim. Sheldon Creed finished ahead of Austin Hill in Xfinity. And then Christopher Bell finished ahead of Keselowski, and Martin Truex Jr. And then this weekend, we got Jacob Abel is your pick. Louis Foster is my pick. Shout out Alexander Martinez. He's also picking Louis Foster. NXT next, whatever you want to call it, Milwaukee. Race 1, you got Newgarden and McLaughlin for race 2. Our guest Alex has Will Power and Alex Pillow. I'm taking McLaughlin for both of them. This is just my strategy when you have doubleheader races like that. I feel like he's going to win one of them. So for the sprint, you have Victor Martins, and I have Zane Maloney. Zane Maloney's pretty good there in the past, so maybe he gets the sprint win. Derives some early season form that seems to be missed. Alex is taking Isaac Hadjar for both races. I like that. I have Isaac Hadjar for the main race. You have Oliver Behrman. You're going with two guys who have kind of underperformed this year for your two winners in F2 this weekend.
They're bound to perform, I would imagine.
Eventually. Your podium is Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri. Alex's podium is Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, and Oscar Piastri. My podium, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton. The first time this year anyone, me in this case, doesn't have Max Verstappen on the podium.
I would imagine, that no one's had Verstappen on the podium.
Yeah.
First time that you've picked, I'm having words are hard moment here. That
I'm pretty sure what I said is correct.
I'm adding on
Okay.
where you didn't pick Verstappen to win. I'm the only person who's picked Verstappen to win every time. I just called myself a driver. Continue.
Okay. So, the reason I don't have Verstappen on the podium is, he probably will be on the podium, but I think that the Mercedes cars are going to be really strong at Monza. Watch them be absolutely nowhere, but just the past few times we've seen them, they've been so strong just on, like, the straights and things, and that's basically what Monza is. For Coda, I'm taking the number 6 Porsche. So is Alex. You're taking the 7 Toyota for hypercar, that is. For LMGT3, 31 WRT for you, 92 Man-Type points leader for me, 95 United for Alex. For Xfinity, got a whole bunch of Cup drivers down there, as you said. You're taking Christopher Bell. I'm taking Joey Logano. It's a good bet that one Cup driver will win, even if it's not one of those two. Alex is taking Chandler Smith, and then he's also taking Denny Hamlin in the main. I'm taking regular season points leader Tyler Reddick, and you agree with Mr. Martinez. You're taking Denny Hamlin as well. And
Goodbye.
yeah, goodbye.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.